Okay,
Is it rolling?
it's rolling.
Okay. Welcome to Tiny Talks. We are Tiny in Seattle, and I am Janet Cole, and this is my husband, Gary Cole.
Hello. We're here to tell you all about our new project that we're going to be doing
Yes.
called Tiny in Seattle, and
Tiny.
we are very excited.
Very.
Why did we go tiny? We did it. What's your opinion?
I thought you were going to go with this.
I am. I'm on it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just recovering from that.
Okay.
We went tiny because Janet's always wanted to live in under 1,000 square feet. I had too. And we couldn't do that with our other partners, other husbands and wives, because it just wouldn't have worked out. You know, you got to absolutely appreciate the person that you live with.
Yes. Appreciate them, love them, get along with them explicitly.
And have a great friendship.
Right.
And if you're going to be tiny, if you're going to live under 500 square feet like we do, well, right now we're at 517. We're doing the best we can. We live under 500 square feet. In order to do that, you have to actually appreciate the person that you're with.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. And we have been living tiny since 2013. We traveled to Mexico. We had a good time. We traveled to the East Coast. We had a good time.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time updating the websites
Yes.
and getting things done. And now we're trying a new project, and we're going to do live broadcasts whenever possible.
From Seattle, Washington.
And we absolutely love it here.
We love it here.
Okay, tell me about Cruise Brews. Why did you start Cruise Brews? When did you start Cruise Brews? Whatever you want to tell me about it.
I started Cruise Brews in December 2005. It had 23 pages, and they were all people that had mysteriously gone missing. And that was the base of the site, was just those 23 pages. And then we expanded the site to include everything that happens at sea, ports. It became a really big site. And the front page had my love child, weather, on the main page, and live cruise ship tracker. And we broke it all up into niche sites based on what people asked for, what they were looking for.
What traffic they were doing, what patterns they were doing, what they needed, where they wanted to click through.
And we quickly discovered we had loyal visitors that came all the time from the Caribbean, people who watched our weather because it impacted them.
Right.
And we were a good source for it.
It was a pretty good layout.
Yes. So weather was the first site that we broke out of Cruise Brews and made it full-blown about weather. And from there it just evolved.
It evolved, expanded out into niche sites like fires, and missings, and sinking, and ports, and deaths, and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And you had it all built up pretty good when I first met you in 2013. And when I first met you in 2013, you said you wanted to travel to refresh content on the websites.
Right.
So we went to Mexico. We had a great time. We did the Myrtle Beach. We had a great time there. We expanded the websites into by region for the cruise ship ports, and that's why we were traveling.
Yes.
And we expanded the tracker network to include Mexico, the Caribbean,
The baby trackers.
the baby trackers for Alaska, and everything that we had to do.
And that was primarily for people that, when you had the live tracker, that was from the world, and with a slower connection, trying to drill down to specific area that you wanted to get to was kind of tedious and
Right.
Troublesome.
And the
So-
mobile devices didn't do it very well.
No.
So we had to adjust the pages to fit mobile devices better.
Right.
And that's why another reason why we broke out on more tracker pages, because it would make it very easier for people to actually see their region.
So one of the most popular trackers during hurricane season is the Gulf of Mexico, because it really shows all the ships in the Gulf of Mexico, and without everything else trying to load on the page on a small device. That was really, really handy.
Right. After we got the expansion with the trackers, Then we decided we needed to expand the webcams and other things that went, like the webcams and the webcams and schedules and stuff came out of that.
Right.
Because we started noticing that more people were asking for more of that content. Plus, we had to do the schedules because literally you couldn't find any information on such and such a cruise ship
Right.
when you had to report.
It was very difficult. So if we had our own websites that we could source for the schedules, that would be perfect.
All that good stuff. So now we can see where the ships are at any one time, where they were on any one day, and where they'll be tomorrow,
Right.
as often as possible.
We like to be able to say, when I write an article, I like to be able to say that the ship originated here, it called at this port, this port, this port, this port, before returning. And this is where it was at the time this incident took place. So we have that reference. And Mixed Sea Story, we can do the 5 W's plus
Who, what, when, where, why,
Yes.
and sometimes how.
and sometimes how. Because that's the meat and the potatoes of every article, to answer the 5 W's.
If you could do that, then you don't feel like you got burned by clickbait,
Right.
like a lot of our competitors,
Right.
or other websites on the internet. We all know about that.
Right.
We spend a lot of time digging through stuff, trying to say, why can't we find the information?
Right.
And that's kind of how everything expanded so much, because, like, deaths. We never planned on having, she never really planned on having a site about deaths. It's just that because there was no information, there was no resource to go collect the data, tracking a death on a cruise ship, she had to do it herself.
Right. And honestly, we built every site for ourselves as a resource for ourselves,
Right.
that we could reference in an article. And because the references just weren't out there, there was nobody reliable to reference a lot of the 5 W's.
Right, exactly. And deaths is the most shining example of that. Literally, she wouldn't have done that. It was a completely by accident. She just wanted one place to store everything so that she could quickly look through and say, okay, yes, in 2019, this is how many people we had. In 2018, this is how many people we had. And these are how many suicides there were. This is how many overboards there were.
Right.
No, the overboards are not always
Suicide.
accidents.
And not always accident.
They're much more likely to be suicide
Right.
than they are to be accidental. Accidental is rare. I think we've got maybe 2 actually accidentals, 2 or 3 accidental overboards.
Well,
it's just not many.
I can think of one accidental overboard
Right.
off the top of my head.
Tell me.
That was the gay couple who were on their honeymoon at Halloween.
That's true.
He really didn't.
You murdered him.
You murdered him.
That was the line from the screen.
Yes, you murdered him. But he didn't intend to go overboard.
No.
He intended to land on top of the lifeboat.
That's what
and
we believe.
That just didn't quite work out for him.
Right. So it does happen,
It does happen.
but
And then there was.
and that was still an intentional overboard. So technically, it was an intentional overboard.
Right.
It wasn't an unintentional.
Okay, well, I can give you a better one then.
Yeah.
The one who went overboard, they were standing up watching the sunrise.
There you go.
When the radar
The
went
radar
off
knocked
as
him
they were
off.
coming into port, and they weren't counting on that. It knocked him off. Boom, he was gone.
Right.
There
Exactly.
are some accidents.
Right. Usually, it's done because, and that's what we call suicidal behavior. Because they were doing something that was, you shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have done that.
You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Standing up on top of the radar in a controlled part of the ship that is literally do not pass.
That's why there was a
You
sign
shall
that
not
said do not
pass.
pass.
No entry beyond this point.
But a bunch of college kids thought they knew more.
They did.
Sadly,
It didn't work out.
no.
And that's literally the type of thing that Janet spends most of her time doing, is researching who, what, when, where, and why, and how, sometimes how this happened.
Right.
So now that we've got a good description of cruise ship wave,
Yes.
and where we were,
Where we were.
let's talk a little bit about how we got to Seattle and how we got to Tiny in Seattle.
Right.
We took our trip from Arkansas
Right.
because I was working in corporate America. She asked me if I wanted to travel with her, and I was like, well, yeah.
That's not the
Yeah. She said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave Arkansas. We're going to go to the beach.
Right.
We're going to go to Mexico. We're going to live on the beach. We're going to retire. If it works out, we're going to retire in Mexico or somewhere in the area.
Right.
And I was like, let me see. Yeah. So we drove to Mexico from Arkansas. You want me to tell the story?
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
It was. You want me to tell the story?
Go ahead, honey.
Okay.
It's yours.
We drove from Arkansas. We literally sold everything we owned. We sold our houses. She sold her stuff. She had a massive amount of yard sales. I had a massive amount of yard sales.
A dozen, for sure.
At least. It was surprisingly gratifying.
Yes, because we were able to purge ourselves of all the baggage that we had. We had an abundant amount of stuff that we really didn't need, and we got it all into one SUV. What kind of SUV was that?
It was an Expedition, Ford Expedition.
Right.
And we filled the Expedition up with everything we owned, and it was packed. We overpacked it.
Right.
And because we thought we were literally going to retire in Mexico. We didn't know that things were going to work out the way they did.
Right.
But we were flexible. We were open to whatever happened.
Whatever happened.
And
Which included being robbed by the police in Mexico.
We had a good time. We took off, even though we saw that the State Department had issued warnings. We ignored the warnings and continued.
Right.
We took our. We both had spent a lot of time in Mexico and stuff, and we didn't think that it was going to be a big deal.
No.
Turned out we were wrong.
Right.
The journey was much more dangerous, and it had gotten much more dangerous.
Yes.
And is still too dangerous today in a lot of areas.
Yes. That was the reason we left after a year, because it had gotten too dangerous.
It just got too dangerous. We took off from Arkansas. We drove through the United States. We took the Brownville exit into Mexico, or the Brownsville entrance into Mexico.
Right.
We drove from Brownsville all the way through until we got to Cancun.
Right. Along the Gulf of Mexico.
Along the Gulf of Mexico.
And the Caribbean Sea.
Right. We stopped at our first safe zone, which was really hard to get to because we thought that we planned it out really well. We planned our trip. We didn't take into consideration topas.
We planned it. When we crossed the border, they told us, do not drive at night. Do not stop unless it's the police. Do not stop for other people because they're bringing robberies on the road.
A lot of robberies.
So we
ran.
We planned our schedule so that we could be off the road by dark, which we were going to do anyways before we heard of the warnings.
Right.
Just so we could relax and have supper and prepare for the next day.
Right.
But because of the topas.
The topas are these speed bumps. They're Mexico speed bumps, and they are hard to get over, and they put them close together. You'll have one, you go 100 feet, you'll have another one. 100 feet, you'll have another one. And then you'll go 100 yards, you have another one. Whatever. It was just really, really tough, and it slowed us down. It took us about 5 hours longer, 5 to 7 hours longer than we expected because of those. So that put us way behind schedule, and we did have to drive at night. We got robbed at one time by the police.
Yes. And that was just before dark. It was just starting to get dark, and all of a sudden the lights went on.
Yep. And off we had to pull over. And I got to tell you, it wasn't as bad as we would have expected. They were laughing and smiling the whole time. They were very polite about it when they were robbing us.
But we had planned ahead of time. So what we did is I had a $20 bill in my wallet. We had a stack of U.S. bills
Right.
that big, and there was a place where we could lift up cup holders and things in our console, and we took and put that underneath and put the cup holders back in there,
Right.
and then we took and stashed them somewhere else. So
We stashed money here, we stashed money there.
Yeah.
We always had a little bit here and a little bit there. That way we knew how much we had in each pocket. We knew how much we had here and there.
Right.
So if we were robbed, we were ready. And it worked out really good for us. That's what we were told to do by some of our friends.
Right.
And it worked really, really well.
yeah,
So that's what we did. We got pulled over. They said, "Hey, we need money for Coca-Cola and beer. Coca-Cola and beer.
Coca-Cola and beer.
And tacos or something." But I was like, "Okay, whatever, no problem."
He says to me, "Janet, do you have any money?" And I said, "I don't know. Let me look at my purse."
Yeah, here it
In my
is.
wallet. Oh, I
Here's
only
the
have
20.
$20.
It worked out real well.
Yeah.
We had a good time with it. We moved on.
Yeah.
We ran and ran and ran. We got through. We did our trips. We get through it. We finally landed in the Mayan Palace, Riviera Maya. We stayed there for a few weeks.
5 weeks we vacationed
We
at the
vacationed.
Riviera Maya timeshare that Gary owned.
Right. And it was the last time I've stayed in that resort, and it's probably the last time we ever will.
Yeah, we will.
It just
No more.
no more. But
But it was fabulous.
it really was, and it gave us time to find our more permanent place to live.
Right.
We stayed at Puerto Aventuras, something like that.
Yes.
But we stayed there, and we were there for a year and a half, roughly, and we absolutely adored it. We were able to do all the work we needed to do in the cruise ship ports in Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, and we worked from there to get all that stuff done. We never got to go on a cruise,
We made some friends.
but we made a lot of friends.
Some lifetime friends.
We spent a lot of time on the beach.
Mary, Bernie,
Mary and Bernie, and some other people there in Puerto
the guy
Rico.
who owned the, what is his name? Peter.
Peter, who
owned
owned the Latitude 20
Latitude 20.
bar there. Wonderful, wonderful people. We had a good time. We learned a lot.
Yes.
We got a lot done, and it gave us a little bit of perspective of some of this stuff that's going on in the southern part of North America right now, all the way down. People are struggling. People are suffering. The drug lords, the cartel, they have taken over entire sections of the beach. And resorts in the area are just not as safe as they used to be.
Right.
People are fleeing the area, and it's no surprise there's a caravan of people coming to the United States from one time or another. I thoroughly expect that's going to continue because people are suffering.
Yeah.
They just are. Anyhow, things got a little too hot for us in Mexico,
Yes.
and we decided it was time to get out. There were some people that had been kidnapped and literally were never seen again.
And
out
there
of
were
our
texts.
resort.
There were texts, and
There were texts.
even out of our resort.
It was a big deal. It seemed like there was a lot of texts being snatched
Yeah.
to help the cartel build their computer networks and their infrastructure and stuff like that.
Right.
And we just didn't want to be involved in it. We took off.
Yes. So Gary says, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Well, let's go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina." And he said, "Myrtle Beach, South Carolina?" I said, "Yeah, because I wintered there one year, and it's really cheap. We could find a place. This is the prime time. September through is your low season, and this is the prime time for us to find something cheap, and it will give us time during the off season where we can try to find something annual with a better rate,
Right.
and maybe eventually buy here." So that's what we did.
Right. So we picked up everything that we had, and because we had been living tiny in Mexico, it was really easy.
Yeah.
Everything we owned, and that's the other thing about living tiny. Everything you own can fit in a couple suitcases, a couple carry-ons, and that's why it was so perfect. When we left Mexico, we'd been it was like 210 or something. It wasn't very much.
Yeah.
It was really, really small. I think it was around 210 square feet or 280. It wasn't very much.
Somewhere.
But we picked up everything we owned and we took off to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. where we stayed right there downtown for the first couple months or so until we found
Annual.
a more annual lease that we could get closer in a place where we could afford, because we were going to be doing a lot of traveling and we had to go cheap.
So we found a little condo that had included all the utilities, internet, the works, right on the beach, 16 floors up, with a fabulous ocean view, and
You could literally
balcony.
flip something off the sand,
Yeah.
off the balcony into the sand below. That's how
Yeah.
close we were to the beach. It was so amazing. It's Myrtle Beach Resort. It was a great place to live.
And it cost us $600 a month with everything included.
Yeah,
It was a bargain.
it was wonderful. It
Yeah.
really was amazing. We had a good deal. We had a good landlady. She has a couple condos there. She did a really good deal for us.
Yeah.
And even though we left early,
3 years to the day.
yep, we left early than we expected. It was a wonderful experience.
We left earlier than we expected because it was Hurricane Florence that was going to come through Myrtle Beach, and we had rode out Hurricane Matthew
Right.
after everybody else had left, and there was just a handful of people left even in our building.
Yeah.
We rode out Hurricane
We rode out the
Matthew,
hurricane, and it was tough.
We went live quite a few times, but the building was swaying and rocking and,
And
swaying.
she has
and
bad vertigo,
Really
so
bad
it was
vertigo.
not comfortable for her.
It made it worse.
And we were afraid that another hurricane would probably do us in.
Right.
Um,
Couldn't do that again.
we just couldn't do it again. It was I'm glad we did it.
Yes.
I've never been through a hurricane. I never went through a hurricane. That was an experience. I don't recommend it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Do not try this at home.
Yes. Not safe for work.
Not safe. Not safe. Anyhow, we honest to God truth, part of the reason we left was not what you would expect.
Right.
Part of the reason we left was the political climate changed a little bit, as you might know. There were rallies being held in North Carolina while Trump was running for president, and they came back to South Carolina celebrating after going to the rallies, and to each his own. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the beach is sacred.
Yes.
Always has been, always will be. We would like to keep it that way. So please, no politics on the beach. But that's what happened in Myrtle Beach. It hit the beach hard. Right after the election, people came celebrating, and bless their hearts, they were having a good time. They went to the celebration of the rallies, but they brought their celebration to the beach, and it was really difficult.
Uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. The Trump flags hit the beach, the MAGA hats hit the beach, the rebel flags hit the beach, the Blue Lives Matter flag hit the beach, and it just,
Too much stress.
it was too much stress. So we decided we wanted to go to the most liberal part of America. So we decided
Another coast.
we would go to another coast. We would go back to the West Coast, which we had been planning on coming back to after we finished our work on the East Coast. Anyway, we were coming back to the West Coast. We just moved it up 2.5 years early, roughly.
We actually announced it on New Year's Eve that year that
Right.
we were going to be leaving when our contract was up the following fall.
Because we thought we could make it.
Yeah.
We had noticed that we really didn't want to go through another hurricane.
Right.
And then with the political climate change, it was another excuse. It was another incentive. And we decided it was time. And Janet was born in Astoria, Oregon anyway.
Yes.
I mean, that was her home.
Yes.
That's where she wanted to come back to.
Yes.
So she's a West Coast native, and living in the South was very difficult for her. So we were really excited to move back to the West Coast.
Right.
And we had some friends here, and we were able to get here quick, and it really worked out for us.
Yes, it worked out absolutely fabulous. We are so happy here. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, Seattle.
So what we found was, when we first moved here, that Portland is a gorgeous place. It was everything people explained it to be. It was fun. It was entertaining. The people there were fantastic. The first thing we noticed when we hit the ground was a lack of judgment. People do their own thing. They live their own way. They live their own life, and they don't try to interfere with other people. They literally, whatever you're wearing, whatever you're doing, it's cool.
Yeah.
You know,
Freedom.
freedom,
Freedom to be an individual.
who you are,
Yes.
and be celebrated to some degree of that.
Yes.
So we, when we started saying that we were going to move to Seattle,
Yes.
which was the original intention anyway,
Right.
everybody kept saying, "But Seattle, it's not as good as Portland. They have to freeze."
Seattle
And we were
freeze.
Like, Seattle freeze. Seattle
Seattle
freeze. We were like,
freeze.
"What?" But it turns out the Seattle freeze is not what people expect. That's
Yeah.
what my opinion is on the
Yeah.
Seattle freeze is that people in Portland are more artsy.
Yeah.
They're
True.
very artsy. They're very outgoing.
True.
They're very inquisitive. People will walk up to you on the street when you're doing something. You're doing your business, and they just walk up to you on the street and say, "Who are you? What are you doing? You look pretty cool. I want to meet you. I want to be friends with you. Let's talk." And you're like,
No freeze there.
no freeze there. But in Seattle, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
They're not as artistic. They're definitely not as outgoing. They're highly intellectual.
Very
Very.
intellectual, yes.
The whole city is. The whole city has that vibe. It's a West Coast thing, I guess. But people here are generally a little bit more technical. It's a very technical area because of the Amazon and Google and Microsoft and Pinterest and Facebook
Yes.
and all these guys here, the big tech companies. So
They're
it
all
is a
here.
little bit more technical.
Yes.
And if you know anything about nerds, we're not always very outgoing. I am. Janet's not.
No,
So
I'm not.
Janet literally is a total recluse.
Yes.
Very much so. So
A happily
reclusive.
reclusive, yes.
Janet is stepping out of her comfort zone to do this project.
Yes, I am. This is not comfortable
this
for
is
me.
not normal.
I'm just trying to make it comfortable for you.
Yeah.
What can I say?
This is not normal. But because she is the queen of Cruise Ship Wave and editor of Cruise Brews, we've got to have her. So I've pulled her out of her shell enough, and I'm exaggerating. Literally, Janet pulled me out of my shell. I didn't want to go live.
Yes.
We needed to go live because we got to get our point across.
Yes.
And today, things going live is much better than the pre-recorded stuff where you make it all prim and proper. People
Right.
want to hear
Reality.
reality,
Real people doing real things.
real screw-ups. And you'll see a bunch of those.
That
We'll be going,
Yeah. Well, it's live, and live is live.
yeah, live is live.
You can't fix live.
Live is live. You can't fix it. So, remember, we are still getting back to the Seattle Freeze. We are still part of the Seattle Freeze. We're nerds.
Yes.
We don't understand things.
Yes.
We want to be friendly. We want to be outgoing. We want to be inquisitive and learn and meet new people and stuff. But we just don't have the social skills.
Right.
At least I don't. So I say that the Seattle Freeze is really when people want to be friends, and they really do want to be friendly, but they just don't know how. So if you want to give them a break, make the first step and just start talking to them, and they will talk to you. People in Seattle are very, very friendly.
They're very friendly.
They really are. They just don't know how to start. So sometimes you have to just make that first step.
And for the most part, I think a lot of them are in their own little world. As it is a lot across the country, it is very obvious here. Everybody's looking at their cell phone.
Right.
They're talking on their cell phone. They have their earbuds in. They're having conversations as they're strolling through the traffic and crossing from corner to corner on the red
Right.
lights or whatever. You know, it's a very tech, electronic
Right.
community. People are
Yeah.
really tied to their electronics.
Right.
I get that. I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah,
But
we are. We are.
We are.
We are. We admit it.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we got here, we got settled in. We came to Seattle. We found out that the freeze was not quite real. It was just a state of mind. And we started meeting people. We started having a good time. We started getting out. And we decided at that point, once we got settled a little bit, we decided we liked it here. And we actually wanted to find a place. We figured we would like it, but we just wanted to make sure.
We wanted to make sure.
Right. So now that we got settled down, we decided we were going to buy a place to live. And we live tiny. Because we live tiny, we're not only living tiny, we are minimalists.
Right.
This is my favorite shirt. I have.
He got it from a thrift shop.
Woohoo!
Most of our clothing is purchased at thrift shops.
Thrift shops or
We
whatever.
upcycle.
We upcycle
everything.
Everything.
We try to keep our footprint small,
Right.
and everything that we have pretty much in this place is used.
Right.
We upcycled everything.
Everything. Whenever possible.
And when not possible, Amazon.
Amazon. Sorry, we're not doing any commercials. We don't
No.
have any affiliations or anything.
No, well,
It's just-
actually, I
it's
do,
practical.
but,
Oh yeah, we do.
yeah.
We do. We have affiliations.
Yeah,
we have an affiliate account with Amazon. How,
Yes,
how
we
cool
do.
is that? Anyhow, we decided we were going to stay in Seattle, and we were going to stay tiny. We were born this way. Ever since we've been together, we decided we were going to be tiny from this point forward.
Right.
And from this point forward, everything that we do will be tiny. And tiny means, for us,
Under 500 square feet.
under 500 square feet. So anything we live in, we will always try to be under 500 square feet. And we found out that was really difficult in Seattle. We expected it would be. We didn't expect it would be this bad. We've always been able to live in condos. The condos we had were under 300 square feet,
Yeah.
210 square feet, 288 square feet. Here in Seattle, it's 200.
We're 516 right now.
There's 517 right now where we live right now. This was the smallest place we could find here in the Valley, and this is really nice.
It's a bad design.
It's a-
it has a long hallway in it and
lot of
some
wasted
wasted space. We could have, with a better design,
We could condense it down to less than 300 square feet and be much more comfortable.
Right.
It's just so much wasted space.
But we love it.
Yes, we do. We
Yeah.
absolutely love it. And we decided that we would go ahead and buy. That was the goal. And we were thinking under 500 square feet in Seattle. We were going to find a condo, so it's going to be the sizes that we found since we've been looking. We've been looking just over a year. And the sizes that we found most common in Seattle were 288 square feet, 320, 420, 500, and a couple, places like that. Every single one of them, $1,000 a square foot. I am not paying $500,000 for 500 square feet. I will not do it. That is irresponsible.
Yes.
That goes against everything
Yes.
that we believe in.
Yes.
For the sheer fact that $500,000 for 500 square feet. How
many people could we put
How many people
in houses for that same amount of money?
I'm serious. How many people could live
Yes.
in Seattle with that?
Yeah.
No, I can't justify that.
Right.
So what we decided to do was, we decided we were just gonna buy land, put a tiny house on it, and give the rest out to homeless veterans, and let them live on the land with us.
Right.
Veterans or something. We wanted to do something for the community, for other people who are homeless. They can't find a place to live. There are a good percentage of the homeless people, the highest percentage of homeless people, are veterans. So we could help take out a little chunk of that, rather than being $500,000 for 5 minutes. Come on. Anyhow, this became a new obsession for us, because we're going to need help to do it. So we decided it was time for us to start doing all these other new projects, and we'll get the message out there and start trying to see if we could solicit some support. And this was how we decided to do it.
Yeah, so we have registered a couple more domain names. We're currently have set up already is in development, Tiny in Seattle. tinyinseattle.com.
That's the one we're working on right now.
That's
That
what
we're
we're working on
running
now.
our live shows from
Yes,
for Tiny in Seattle. Later, maybe we'll do some other stuff, but we've got to do this first.
right.
After we get up and running, and we've got another website that we're going to be doing that we'd like to, if we can get some support, we'd like to build a tiny house community called Camp
Kalakala.
Kalakala.
Camp Kalakala.
Kalakala. That is the hardest thing to say. That is a really hard thing to say. We've got to get more practice on it.
Kalakala.
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 Kalakala. Okay, Camp Kalakala is, we want to do that because it is the ship, the ferry, that was one of the original beautiful ferries that they first introduced to
Art Deco.
Art Deco ferry to match the for the World's Trade Fair in Seattle when the Space Needle went up. That's the ferry that they ran, and it actually had more visitors to it than the Space Needle. It was actually a bigger attraction than the Space Needle was for quite some time. The ship had some. It had 9 lives, I think.
9 lives.
9 lives, and
I wrote an
it was
article about
it was a beautiful, beautiful article that you wrote about it, and it had a really good life, and that's why we chose that ship for a name, because it really encompasses the recycling, the upcycling.
The upcycling, and it's maritime.
Yeah,
So
all about cruises.
All
and
about
cruises. Cruises.
and this
cruising.
is like a silver bullet. It's not like a typical ferry. It was like a big silver bullet, and they are recycling that and offering sections that they preserved to the artist community for them to do artworks with it. And we think it's just fabulous, the whole concept. And to make a camp, like we thought about fort, but camp about Kalakala
Right,
would be a nice addition to Seattle.
right.
So the idea is to build our tiny house looking similar to the ferry Kalakala.
Right.
So-
Either we'll build our tiny house to look like it,
Right.
or we would like to build a if we have enough money to do it, we'd like to build a main. In Seattle, we're finding out that there may be some rules and regulations where you have to have a fixed building in order to have auxiliary dwelling units or tiny houses on the property.
ADU.
You have to have an ADU, auxiliary dwelling unit. In order to have an ADU in most neighborhoods in Seattle, we're still working on that information. We'll come back to you on that.
Right.
But the requirements may require that you have a fixed house on that property or a
Right.
fixed building on that property.
Right.
If that's the case, then we'd like to build the Kalakala, the Kalakala
Kalakala.
ferry as a staging area for the people that come into the camp, the people
Right.
that are moving in. We'll have a staging area there.
So they'd have quarters
Right.
in our quarters. They'd be divided into sections.
And that would be a way for them to build their houses,
Right.
have a place to live while they're building their house,
Right.
and transition into the community.
And we'll be helping to build their house.
Right.
Because that's what neighbors do.
That's what neighbors do. That's what the community does.
That's what we
And
do.
that's our goal. That's our intent.
Help
And
others.
Exactly. All about
A leg up.
a leg up. The difference between buying a $500,000 piece of land
Right.
or a $500,000 piece of property that is super, super tiny,
Right.
that only you can live in,
Yeah.
that only you can appreciate, or
Yeah.
doing something for the community. And
Right.
we just decided that it was probably the best for us to do this.
Yes.
Anyhow, the next thing we've got to do is we got to talk about, we got the condos, we got tiny houses. Now, let me see, what do we got? We need to talk about living tiny in tiny houses just for a moment.
Yes.
This is not going to be something that everybody can do.
No.
We kind of hinted on it a little bit earlier.
Yes.
Living tiny requires a certain amount of appreciation for the person that you're with, and space.
And having
Respect.
good organizational skills is a big plus, because everything has to have a place, and a place that's logical, that works out for you.
So you either have to have hooked up with, or you should be with a person that picks up behind themselves, or that person needs to pick up behind themselves on their own,
Right.
because nagging someone to do it is never going to work.
No.
But if you don't pick up behind yourself and you don't respect the other person's space
Right.
and the other person's privacy, it could be a problem. What is it? Dua Lipa? Dua Lipa song says, we fight and we argue, but you'll still be love me blind. And that's the thing. You have to be able to let stuff roll off your shoulder and get along and do that, because you're in a tight little space.
Right.
You've got to appreciate the person you live with.
Absolutely.
And that is a really, we really do. Anyhow, now that we've decided what we're going to do with that, we're going to do tinies, and we're not going to do a condo, we're not going to do a house. The challenge is to try to get other people involved. There's a lot of attention being placed on right now in the homeless community to get other people involved in projects of homelessness and stuff like that. Right now in Seattle, there's a lot of attention being placed on homelessness, but there's not much
In solutions.
there's not much in solutions, because unfortunately what's happened is a lot of people lump all homeless in the same pile, and they're not the same. Homelessness is a very complicated situation,
Yes.
especially anywhere, in any city. It's a very complicated problem. In Seattle, the most visible people that you will see are the people who are addicted.
Right.
The addictions. The addictions prevent people from having a normal life.
Right.
You take someone who's addicted and you give them a home, and they'll destroy it.
Right.
Unless
Yes.
they have some support.
Yes.
You have to address the addiction.
And they have to have skin in the game.
They have to have skin in the game.
Yes.
In order for you to walk away from an addiction, you have to have a desire to do it.
Right.
You have to make that decision on your own. You
Right.
can't just grab someone off the street, drop them into a house who is addicted, and let them magically fix their life, because it won't happen.
No.
You have to fix the addiction. You have to fix the symptom. If you don't address the symptom, giving them the world will not be the answer, will not be the solution to their problem. You'll only create other problems
Right.
for other people. So, that said, homelessness is a very complicated issue, and it should be addressed with a focus on the actual problem that caused the homelessness originally.
Right.
Right?
Yes. And we we really wanted to have they gotta have skin in the game.
Right. And
If they work with us and anybody else that we can get to help us to build their tiny home,
right.
they have skin in the game, and
Right.
they have a reason to be part of our community.
Using the same kind of model that Habitat for Humanity uses.
Absolutely.
Where they call it, they actually call it sweat equity.
Sweat equity.
You have to have your certain amount of sweat equity, skin in the game.
Yes.
Because you have the sweat equity in the property that you're going to be taking, then you actually have involvement in the community.
Right.
And without that involvement in the community, you don't have enough skin in the game. You don't have enough sweat equity. You're not going to appreciate what you got.
Right.
That's the key. That's the key to making a true tiny community.
Yes.
That's what we believe the true is. once everyone has an understanding of what other people had to do, an appreciation for what other people had to
Yes.
do. You saw other people build their house, or you know that they built their house, or they helped build someone else's house.
Right.
It means something more than just walking in and taking something,
Being handed.
being handed a platter.
Right.
But if we do the Habitat for Humanity model, which I thoroughly appreciate, I've spent years working with Habitat for Humanity. Jimmy Carter is my hero, my other hero. Martin Luther King was my first hero, Jimmy Carter is my second. And if we can follow those kind of, the stuff that he's learned,
Right.
Jimmy Carter and Rosalind, President Jimmy Carter, the stuff that they did, the way that they learned, the stuff that they've done for the community, and homeless people all over the country. If we can use that model, I think we could do really good.
Yes. That's
And
our plan.
it really does put community first.
Community first.
If we can build a main building, the Kalakla,
Yeah.
Kalakla,
Kalakla.
the Kalakla, the Kalakla, the Kalakla. If we can build the building and set it up the way we'd like to do for transition housing, once the community is built, we would like to do Airbnbs for the original tiny rooms that we had for each person transitioning into their house. So the Kalakala would actually have
Three
four or five rooms. We don't know exactly.
Probably 3 Airbnbs.
Probably 3.
We have 1 and then 3 that we would
Right.
Airbnb.
And we would we'd like to have those set up, and if we can pull that off, then we could Airbnb those rooms out
Right.
and bring extra money into the tiny community.
Right.
That way you could help people with their food or make bills. Even though you'd be in a tiny house, you'll still have some bills.
Yes.
And there may be some need to help pay people's bills.
Right.
If we can do Airbnb out of the original building, then we could bring tourists in and get them to enjoy the tiny community and talk about the tiny community and talk about our mission.
Yes.
And spread that
Yes.
out through the country. Then maybe we can get more support for tiny houses and tiny communities and helping people that are homeless, that actually need the support. And if we get really lucky, maybe we could expand out into other areas. I don't know. All I know is you have to have, from what I've learned from the Habitat for Humanity, in order to have a proper community, you can't just grab people who are homeless, throw them in a building and say, there you go, you've got your new life there.
Right.
All it does is create a certain amount of hopelessness, because you basically have a project where everyone's exactly the same, a housing project, and if you know anything about housing projects, they fail miserably
Yeah.
if they don't have a mixture of the community. You have to have a diverse population of diverse people, diverse employment, culture, aspects of life, jobs, everything. As much diversity as possible. The
Right.
more diversity you have in a community, the more that the community is stronger, and
Yes.
those people can share with each other.
Yes.
If everybody's poor, everybody suffers and starves together.
Right.
So we want to make sure that that's not the case. We don't want to just grab everybody and drop them into a house and walk away. No,
Right.
it doesn't work. It's a recipe
Build
for
the
disaster.
community.
You've got to build the community first.
Right.
Build the community and then bring people in. You can't help yourself if you're struggling and drowning.
Right.
If you yourself are struggling and drowning, you can't help other people. So once you get back on your feet and you can stand good on your own, then you can help other people. And that's what we've got to remember in the community.
Yes. It's kind of a
And my computer just died. I'll be right back.
it's kind of a novel approach to social welfare. because this is a skin in the game social system.
Right.
Everybody has to be part of the solution, not just part of the problem.
Right.
You got to be part of the solution first, and then they can be part of the problem, and we'll all have solutions to work through those. We'll all work for solutions for those problems.
Right. So, I think we have just about covered everything we need. I need to see the notes, please. Where are we now? We have covered
Pretty much
okay.
everything.
I think we're pretty good.
Yes, the next step episode will be my cameo, and it's going to be all about what I've been doing for the last 20 years.
All about Janet.
And then the cameo after that, the third edition, will be Gary's cameo, where he'll
All
talk
about me.
about his skills and assets that he brings to our family.
Right.
And then the fourth one. The fourth one.
Thursday, we're going to have all about Cruise Ship Way.
All
we're
about
going to
Cruise Ship
describe
Way.
every website, what they're about,
Right.
why we built them, why she built them, or why we built them, depending on how it worked out.
Right.
And literally just explain all of Janet's hard work
Right.
and all the hard work that we did rebuilding it to make it more automated and more user friendly and all that. So that we'll talk about Cruise Ship Wave, and then
The fifth one is going to be all about Tiny, and from that point forward, we're going to be focusing on Tiny. It'll be some of what I did during the day on the network.
Right.
What Gary did during the day. Gary drives Uber. And he comes into contact with lots of people who have those white-collar jobs in tech here, Google and Airbnbs. He interacts with a lot of people, and he's been sharing our what we do and giving positive feedback. So he'll be talking about that, and then we'll be going on to what we've done that day
Right.
to try to reach our goal for Tiny.
right, everything's going to be everything we're doing here is going to be all about trying to become or trying to get a tiny community, build a tiny community.
Yes.
What's it going to take? How is it going to happen? We don't know yet. It's all a mystery to us, and it's going to unravel. But we've got to build the base for everything that we're doing. So we're doing we're going to tell you about ourselves first. Then we're going to start our regular broadcasts.
Yes. And the broadcast is going to be I forgot what I was going to
A couple
say.
days a week, we believe. At this point, we're going to do it probably 2 days a week.
Right.
We're not sure what days yet. We'll get back to you on that. But we're going to do our first trial broadcast on Friday,
Yes.
and that'll kind of give us a good format that we're going to start with.
Right. And then from there,
We'll see what happens.
we'll see what happens.
I've got everything. Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about?
I have nothing else I want to talk about. I was just glad to have this opportunity to sit here and share a bit of our life with you, because we're just names otherwise. And,
Right.
And now we're this week, we're kind of sharing who we are, what we've been doing, where we're going, and why we do this.
Right.
Why do you do this? Because we love it. That's why we do it.
We do. Well, we love you very much. Thank you for spending your time with us.
And we'll see you on the flip side.